In order to do so at this larger scale, we needed a partner, and that's where DevCo comes in, along with Middlesex County and the state of New Jersey. So and all of these groups are represented here this evening. It's really part of us forming a very strong public-private partnership and having all levels of government here working together. We have an opportunity to rebuild the theater the way we remember it, or maybe even better than it was. And it's critical that we can recapture the original spirit. We want to make sure this is a transformative project that revitalizes the soul of the theater, reimagines the Forum Theater, but can accommodate a wider range of activities that are needed in the community that have no home now. So please go interact, have fun, ask questions, get your answers. Most importantly, give us your input, and I encourage you to imagine what if. Thank you.
I'm really excited. I'm a 20-year resident of Metuchen, and I love that it will be a multi-use space, not only a theater, but an event space in a place for community to come together and to have opportunities to do art shows and other events.
I think the thing that's really important as well is really thinking about the revenue it's going to take to maintain this infrastructure. So we have to be mindful of business model as well as also community engagement. I believe in Metuchen, and I believe Metuchen can make it happen.
It's a good start. I'd like to see a little bit more studio space and that sort of thing.
To know that there is a lot of planning that's being done around setting up, this whole district to be art center is really a super exciting thing for us. And also, I happen to live in the south part of town, and so it's also very accessible to us personally, very selfishly, but just in general, I think it's going to be really fun once we start seeing it come to life.
I thought it should be maybe more in line with kind of a community theater, which kind of feels that way. It kind of feels intimate, and it looks nice. So I think it's going to be great.
Overall, it seems like everybody wants to keep some form of the Forum alive, which I think is important for the community and the region. But I'm excited. I think it's going to be exciting for the town. I think it's going to bring business to the town, bring more money to the town, and I think it's just going to be great overall.
He didn't hear me, he missed that, but that's okay.
Sitting in the middle of the road. It didn't have any like real purpose and started 732.
Before we.
Byron, how long have you been serving?
Okay.
Say what? How long have you been serving on this?
I'm the longest, but I deferred to Brian
Yeah, but how long?
He
was
was- since 1999.
God bless you.
I never wanted
Gotcha.
to know. I want you to
You're amazing.
No, we called him back time. It's like, I want your. Because Maureen and I were on the phone.
It's good to know.
Get this thing going.
You could just hear it. He's so
I
angry.
don't have my packet because I had to go straight from work
Yeah, so
here,
that's still
but
never
I'll be
called.
okay.
But I'll put it up there.
Shorthand was,
Really
it was
So
gonna be
anybody-
much more like me, and I said,
I
I don't really
know.
want that.
I might, if Edis doesn't come, I might just slide over to look at his items. Or actually, they're on the website.
She currently thinks you're okay.
Right, maybe I will, it does make sense.
It's all good. It's all good. I'll just go on the website.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll get probably.
I'm not most seen here.
He said he doesn't want.
Yeah, he was.
right.
Yeah, he knows I'm a big
What
mouth,
is it?
so-
Brian likes to.
Thank you.
Yes, I love to talk. So do I call to order? Or do you?
I guess.
It's the first meeting, I think, ever where I don't have my packet. so.
I know the Edie's has come. Usually.
Somebody has to speak.
Who calls it to order officially?
You do, please.
I do.
Yes, please.
Okay, I'd like to call the April 10th, 2025 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting to order. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act pursuant to Public Law 1975, Chapter 231. Said notice was published in the Home News Tribune on January 9th, 2025, posted in Borough Hall, and sent to the Star Ledger for information. All requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act were sent.
Okay, and as this meeting, there's currently not the chair or the vice chair is left to any board member to make a motion if they'd like to nominate someone to be the chair acting for the.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Brian Tobin as the temporary chair for this evening.
Second.
I humbly accept. Without a vote, or we good? All right. Welcome. So I think first we should be doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can we do a roll call, please?
Yes, of course. Ms. Delgado? Mr. Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Rabinowitz? Ms. Zielski?
Here.
Mr. Sondergaard?
Here.
Mr. Tobin?
Here.
Mr. Topping? Mr. Sukan?
Here.
Ms. Patel?
Here.
Mr. Darrer?
Here.
Mr. Malvone?
Here.
Thank you.
Can we have the record show that Ms. Delgado also just walked in?
Thank you. No worries.
All right, just in time, Edie. Give you a second. And why don't we, while we're giving her a second, can we have the first applicant, 24-1404E, Alana Zimmerman and Kartik Koda, show up, please?
Good evening. My name is John Sullivan. I'm an attorney with the offices of Vastola and Sullivan, and I'm representing Ilana Zimmerman and Karthik Koda, who are the owners of the property at 2 Jonesdale Avenue here in town. The property is located in the R2 zoning district. It is fully improved with a single-family dwelling, and it is a corner lot, and it is slightly undersized for the zoning district.
Can I pause you for a second?
Sure.
Adam, do we have to swear him in or anything?
I'm sorry, you're the attorney, correct?
I'm the attorney.
Okay, I
Yeah,
just want
no,
to make sure.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I haven't done this in a long time, so I want to make sure I'm doing this. All right, thank
That's
you.
quite all
Sorry,
right.
sir.
So what brings us here tonight is we're not proposing an addition or any real changes to the footprint of the home. What we're going to do is we're proposing to convert an enclosed screen porch into an enclosed sunroom. So it'll be more useful for all year round. So what brings us here is when it was considered just a porch, we were not a projection into the side yard, but as soon as we're enclosing it, it becomes a projection into the side yard. So even though that current setback is 4.2 feet and 8 feet is required, now that we're converting it, we actually need a variance for that. So that went through your zoning officer. Your zoning officer issued the appropriate denial and sent this to the board. So what we have submitted in terms of plans is simply the architectural plan prepared by Mr. Regab. It's dated March 26th of 2024 and last revised March 31st of 2025. And we also submitted a survey by Ken Hoffman and Associates, which was dated December 20th of 2021. We do have some existing nonconformities on the lot. As I mentioned, the lot is undersized. Lot area required is 7,500 square feet, and existing and proposed is 6,617 square feet. Lot depth, 100 feet is required. Existing and proposed are 61.3 feet. The front yard setback to Jonesdale Avenue, 25 feet is required, and 21 feet is existing and proposed. And then I mentioned what brought us here is the side yard variance. We do have the applicant here, Mr. Karthik Koda. I'll elicit some brief testimony from him. And we do have our architect here, Mr. Ashraf Regab, who will provide testimony as well and go over the plans with you. If I may, I'd begin with Mr. Koda.
Sounds good.
All right, we're going to swear you in, so please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Please state your full name and your address for the record.
Karthik Joshua Koda, 2 Jonesdale Avenue, Metuchen, New Jersey, 08840.
Okay.
Mr. Koda, you and your wife are the owner of the property,
Yes.
and you've owned that since January of 2022?
Yes.
And do you live there with your family?
Yes.
And who else do you have other than you and your wife?
Our son, Gabriel.
And that property is fully improved with a single-family dwelling?
Yes.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, just please do me a favor, and everybody watching at home, since this is being broadcast, make sure to speak into the microphones. And if you'd like, you can take them out of the holster there, but just make sure you're speaking directly into them.
Okay.
Now, you are proposing to convert the existing sunroom, or I'm sorry, the existing porch into an enclosed sunroom, is that correct?
Yes.
And can you briefly explain to the board, how it came about that you wanted to make that conversion?
It's an old house. It was built in 48, so we had it checked for lead before we bought the property. There's lead paint that was used throughout of it. We had all of that removed before we moved in, even though we owned it for about a year before we moved in. The porch, the screened-in porch has lead all around it, so we're not comfortable using it, especially with our son. And so we talked to Sam Abadallah, the general contractor, about how we could move it out. The cost was going to be high enough that we thought that we would just convert it to a year-round sunroom so that we could use it the entire period. We then applied for the variance. We then applied for the permit, and then that's how we got here.
Okay. And that's all I have from Mr. Koda.
Are there any other questions from the board?
No.
And any from the public? Not hearing any? Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be our architect, Ashraf Regab.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Please state your name, your address, and your qualifications.
Ashraf Regab, R-A-G-A-B, 2 Division Street, Suite 1, Somerville, New Jersey.
Mr. Regab, would you state your qualifications for the board?
I'm a principal of Emerald Design Studio since 2001. I'm licensed in the states of New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. Graduated from City College of New York in 1994 with a Bachelor of Architecture.
And have you previously testified before any boards?
Yes, I did.
And can you give us an idea of approximately how many times?
A lot. 100, maybe, I don't know.
And your license remains in good standing?
Yes, it does.
We would ask that he be so accepted.
So accepted.
Thank you. You're familiar with the site, the application, and you prepared the plans that we submitted to the board?
Yes, I did, yeah.
And can you briefly explain to the board the existing structure and what we are proposing in connection with the conversion to the sunroom?
It's an existing enclosed screened-in porch with a roof and multiple wood posts that carry that roof. There are, floor, it has a full floor with the, posts built as a deck, and the openings are all screens. So it's not a heated space. And the client retained me to convert it into a sunroom just simply by removing the screens and replacing them with windows, mostly floor to ceiling windows. So full height windows, and renovate the space, line up the floor with the existing house, so raise it up by a few inches using sleepers, and sheetrock the ceiling and put some, I believe there's a ceiling fan we're proposing and a couple of lights and some outlets to make it into a living space. And that's about it.
I don't believe we have any professional or staff reports to address, so that's all I have for Mr. Regatta.
Okay, are there any questions from the board? Or the professionals, or?
Just a comment.
Okay.
To review the architectural plans when they were submitted, and I just want to offer to the applicant and the applicant's architect, I think the design is very well done. It's complementary of the architecture, and I love the details of the skirt board and the trim. So I applaud you for preserving the home and with proposing designs that's compatible to the house and the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Not here, no other questions? Okay,
I just wanted to clarify, so it's the same exact footprint, the structure. We're just making a permanent heated structure.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
I have a question that, I don't know, it might actually be more one for Chris, but in case you all know. So like, I guess it seems like if this weren't a corner lot, then this wouldn't even require a variance, right? Like, do we have any knowledge of like why that exception exists? Like that makes this one require, or that makes a corner lot require a variance in this situation?
I think this is a good question, and it's going to be good for all the new people on the board. And this is an example. If Dan were here, he'd be like, unfortunately, you're here. We have a corner lot. This is an example of an application that, wish you didn't have to be here. Can you all hear Dan? Okay, great. So for everybody that's new on the board, please take it away, Chris. Explain why they're here.
I was going to offer that I did not author that provision, although I have used that provision in other municipalities in Princeton and Highland Park, and residents love it. I think it was put in place probably in the 90s as a way to acknowledge that there were a lot of non-conforming lots in Metuchen, the radio section in particular, where almost every single lot's less than 62.5 feet. And recognizing that a lot of existing homes had setbacks of typically 3 or 4 feet on a side yard, whereas the requirement was 8 feet. So the compromise in terms of the ordinance was a provision that's now still on the books where if you have an existing home and you have at least 50% of the required side yard, you may extend it by going up or out 1 story at a time, but does not apply to a 3rd-story addition because you want to protect light and air, particularly with setbacks in adjacent homes. Especially if you're already tight, we don't want to create it worse on the 3rd floor. 2-level additions, that's why I say 1 story at a time, or corner lots. Frankly, I'm not sure why there is a provision for corner lots because it affects the side yard that's opposite from the street, opposite the street. I've debated for years whether or not we should remove that provision, and I know we're going to be discussing that over the master plan review. But yeah, to answer your question, if the applicant was not on a corner lot, he would not be here and probably be, I'm sure construction would have been completed by now.
Chris, I'm going to make an assumption, which I'm not sure is valid, but if anybody wants to disagree, they certainly can. Would it make sense, you already said you're going to bring this up, at the appropriate time. Perhaps with the full agreement of this board that it's a it's an unnecessary thing that should at least be reworded, if not deleted.
I think that's a good recommendation, and I might even offer perhaps that should be added to your annual report as one of your recommendations. Otherwise, duly noted, and there are several members on this board or on a subcommittee that has not been announced yet, but we'll certainly be discussing it, and I will take that to consideration.
All right, Chris, thank you for doing what Dan normally does. I appreciate it. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Did you get your answer?
Yeah.
All right, just making sure that. All right, any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Bobby?
I know this is a pretty straightforward one. Is there going to be any more testimony, just given how straightforward it is and kind of de minimis everything is, just addressing the criteria for the variances or anything, or?
Yeah, I'll do that as part of my closing, as
I
opposed
had
to
a feeling that
testimony.
was coming, but you have to have something in there, so.
I think we can, you can consider approving this case under both a C1 hardship and a C2 flexible standard. In terms of the hardship, I think it's pretty self-evident. We have an undersized lot, we have a corner lot, and we have a location of the home, that's already non-conforming. There's really no other way to avoid a variance in this situation. As Ms. Delgado pointed out, we're not adding anything to a footprint. It's not an addition. It's just a pure conversion. In terms of benefits, I do think there are some benefits by eliminating a porch that is full of lead-based paint. I think it's also probably a benefit for the neighbors to upgrade this thing, get rid of the screens and the porches where you might hear noise through, replace that with the windows. It's certainly going to make it quieter. The benefit for the applicant, of course, is we're going to expand some indoor living space for the property. Quite frankly, I do not see any detriment at all. It's a single-family home in a single-family district, pretty well-kept property, and all we're really going to do here is upgrade the property. So with that said, we would ask that you consider granting the application.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the board about this application?
I'd just like to comment. I live near this property, and when I looked through the material sent by the board, I thought, does that property have a porch? I didn't even realize it had a porch. That's how unnoticeable it is, and as unnoticeable it is now, it's going to be more unnoticeable when it's a fully functioning part of the house, as Chris said, very well designed. So I think this is a perfect application.
Any others? Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. Is there anybody from the public who would like to make a comment? Not question. Or question. Thank you, Adam. Not hearing any, I'll close that part of the application. I guess we can entertain, since we didn't have much discussion, we can entertain a motion to pass this.
Motion to pass.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. We do a roll call, Joanne?
Yes, of course. Ms. Delgado?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Zielski?
Yes.
Mr. Sondergaard?
Yes.
Mr. Tobin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good luck. Okay, moving on to our part of the, we have two more things to go over. The first thing is the resolution adopting the 2024 annual report. Should we add an amendment to it based on what we just discussed, or is that too late to do that?
No, I don't think it's too late. Do we think it's too late?
Chris?
There's not really a time limit onto when the annual report is adopted, so we could go back, amend the report, then it could be reconsidered.
Do we have a number?
And last time we did it with one meeting to vote to approve it, and then another meeting to do the resolution on it, so we could do it all in one shot. So if the board wants to include the amendment as proposed, we could draft a new one and have
With
a
the
new resolution.
recommendation?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because the statute that contemplates this really just says that an annual report shall be promulgated during the year, so it's one of the looser statutes around. So we do still have time, basically until Christmas if you want, but let's not take that long.
I think we've done that in the past, but And we get to the next one. Does anybody want to discuss that amendment or anything?
Chris, did you want to say something about it, or?
Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah.
Then I think we should add it now, get it on the books as soon as possible.
Agreed.
Yeah, hopefully
Agreed.
prevent someone else from having to spend the time and money to
Agreed.
go through the process.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will add that, and we will
comment.
Recirculate it on a new agenda, and then
We can do it in the same way.
vote it on it again, and
Yes.
we'll have a resolution ready to go.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. We have one more thing to talk about. Chris would like to, as you can see on our screens, like to talk us about 195 Main Street. Chris?
Yeah, did you want to do your minutes first, or did I miss that already?
We don't have any minutes. Or do we? Oh,
February
shoot, we
13th.
do. Sorry, everybody.
That's quite all right.
I'm glad this is forever in YouTube. I'm used to my board meetings not being recorded, so. All right, can we have a motion to pass the February 13th meeting
Motion.
minutes?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Not hearing any? Congratulations, minutes. Is it your turn now, Chris?
Yes.
All right, thank you, Chris. 195 Main Street.
Yeah, I don't have any correspondence per se, so it'll really be a short
Actually, I'm so sorry.
presentation.
We just noticed that,
My name is not on the roll call at all, either as absent or present on February.
I
I'm
apologize.
trying to remember if I rarely miss a
You were
meeting,
here-
but
you were
I
not here.
I wasn't there for
You were
that
not
one.
here.
So with that amendment, can we have a motion to accept the minutes?
remotion.
Resecond.
Resecond? All in favor?
Apologize.
Re in
Thank you for the
favor.
catch.
All right, any
Free
opposed?
I was absent.
Any abstentions? Not hearing any? Congratulations, minutes, you passed again. Chris?
Yes, I have a short, I guess we'll call it a presentation on behalf of the applicant. This was a matter before this board. A lot of the members weren't here for this. This goes back to when the application submitted by 51 Hollywood Associates LLC, 195 Main Street, Block 158, lots 1.01 and 1.02 in the B2 zone. This is the property between High Street and Charles Street. This was a former office building. It was converted into a mixed-use building. Has a couple of affordable housing units now occupied, operating under a temporary CO, and approved back in 2021. So it's been a while. As you can see with the building, I would say the applicant did a really good job. I actually really like the sign, except that it's non-conforming. It actually needs to come down or come back to the board for a variance. It's actually in the public right-of-way. The landscaping is done pretty well, nice and neat. However, it's not consistent with what the board approved back in 2021. This was the plan that the board had approved, and it was actually based on a sketch the applicant did. And I applaud the applicant for considering the comments I had. I did a little markup, suggested like really dressing up that front facade, especially if it's more residential in nature, and using some screening effort to really screen and buffer the parking lot in view. There's actually a decorative brick wall that's supposed to be installed. Over the course of construction, the applicant decided to go into a different route, and I asked for a revised landscape plan. What we see before you is an as-built, implying that this is what the applicant would like to move forward with. So they're essentially asking for relief on the landscape plan. And if you want to do it before and after, I counted the amount of trees and shrubs, so it's considerably lower, but although I will say, generally speaking, certainly an improvement to the property. It's been, I recall being a BAPS building, BAPS office space for decades. I do applaud the applicant for doing a really good job of cleaning up the site and adding landscaping. The question I have before you is, I think as you know, both the planning board and the zoning board, thankfully, and I do appreciate that both boards give me a lot of leeway, and I think there's a lot of trust for me to review changes in the field. This is a situation where I feel like this might be pushing the envelope. So I just want to get the board's opinion on the matter before I unilaterally change the landscape plan. If the board were to find that the as-built was sufficient, then I would ask for a revised landscape plan. That way it's in the borough files, so that in the future, if there is an issue with the landscaping, they refer to a plan, that's what was approved, and go, oh, you need to replace these trees, and you replace this landscaping, replace that wall, etc. Because as with site plan approval, it runs for the life of the property. If the zoning official were to inspect the property 10 years from now and looks at the plan that was approved, it will see like there's nothing here, so we need a record of it. So before I approve the plan, I just want to ask the board for their thoughts on, really, there's three options here. Is the board comfortable with me making a decision that this is sufficient, the as-built plan? 2, would they like to see more landscaping, as I initially suggested? The applicant said, no, let's go with this as-built plan. So I asked for a revised landscape plan back in November. Still haven't received it yet. So this is the as-built that I was asked to present on behalf of the applicant. Or 3, in either scenario really, would you like the applicant to come before the board for amended site plan approval, public notice all the neighbors, newspaper, and have a public hearing and ask for why the plan changed? So generally speaking, I think the board, as you know, as I said before, you trust me to make decisions on minor changes in the field. I did not want to take the assumption that you felt this would be sufficient. I'm asking the board if this is something that the board would be comfortable with me saying, yeah, this is fine. Because you have a version what the plan was approved for, what the board saw, and you have something that I might characterize as something completely different. So the question is, in your view, is this okay?
So I'll start, and I'll probably start a little hot. Chris, we've been working on this stuff together for 20 years. We have all the faith in the world in you, and I'm really glad that you took the time to come before us today to talk about this. I was not present for this application, but when I reviewed it with you and others, this is not something that we should accept. It's just not acceptable to me. I know that I was a little softer with you, so I'm coming out a little bit hot, allowing others to come in a little bit cooler if they so desire. I think the words were applicable when they came out of your mouth as slippery slope. I don't want other people to come in and give us applications that are what we asked for and what we approve, and after the board clearly puts in time and consideration for it. So if I were to throw out a vote right away, it would be to make them come back with a new site plan and to explain themselves. And for those who are new, we have had people come in who have just been 1 foot off the plan before and had to come in and do everything, and this is worse. This is just worse. So I came in hot. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to add or talk about?
I have a more technical question. I would have to pull the records on this. I do remember, but I believe I might have recused myself. I was representing some properties across the street, and just because I was worried about traffic impact, I didn't want to be biased. Am I allowed to have an opinion on what he does here or not? If I recused from this specific case?
Question is whether you believe you can be impartial.
In this moment, yes. It was just at the time, I was fearful that I wasn't going to be able to be impartial because of the project across the street, but I'll stay out of it again.
Okay. I mean, if you want to err on the side of caution.
It was more of, I will err on the side of caution. This is more of support of the level of integrity for our board and the trust we put into the professionals that we approve and we hire, not about the specific application. That's the only reason why I asked. It has nothing to do with this application. It could be about something on the moon. It was just, I didn't know if I was allowed to have an opinion on this because it has to deal with a case that I recused from. So to be no trouble, I will recuse from answering on this.
Play it safe.
However, I do support Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree that I think I was not part of the board then, but just looking at the approved plan and as built, it's very different. And so I would also support being able to have them come in and try to explain why it's so different.
That's a fact. It is different.
As everyone else has said, I also do trust Chris, but the process is important too. And in my view, and this is in no way casting any aspersions on you, this could be a slippery slope. That if we do this once where we just kind of say, well, it's okay, it's different, but it's, then other people could say the same thing, and I'm not comfortable with that. So I also would suggest that they come back in.
Thank you.
I just have a question. I wasn't on the board during that time, but I walk my dog by this property all the time. And you mentioned the sign. I think I think they did a good job. It looks nice. That sign is often not working though. It blinks quite a bit. And is that something that we could bring up if we were to bring them? I don't know if that's within our
Well, there's a few things happening with that. I've advised the applicants, I suppose it's personnel, staff, that they had to remove the sign or return to the board with an amended site plan application. The original plans did not mention really anything about signage other than signage in the parking lot for ADA and perhaps something to do with bicycle parking or warning signs on AC units, whatever. So since the plan was silent on it, once that non-conforming sign was removed, it loses its non-conforming status. So in addition to the new sign needing a permit, which it did not receive, it also needs a variance from this board. So the applicant's weighing what it wants to do, and if I'm hearing it correctly, that this board wants to see the applicant come back for reasons why the landscape plan changed significantly, I may offer to the applicant, keep the sign and just ask for a variance approval. Doesn't mean that they're going to get the variance. That is up to the board to make that decision. And I think at the time, it's certainly justifiable to ask for about illumination standards, because we didn't ask those questions at the prior hearing because there was no talk about signage whatsoever. So I think that's certainly a topic you should bring up. It certainly will be in my review memorandum. Plus, we will have to check the records, see if there's an electrical permit pulled.
Thank you.
So I guess, does anybody else have any other comments or thoughts? I guess my final question on this is, what, are we just giving you advice? There's not a
It's just
vote?
advice. The board's not taking any action, although I do have one question. This is a hypothetical situation. Actually, all this is hypothetical. If the applicant were to agree to give me more landscaping, let's say triple the landscaping, and get a little bit closer in between, I'm still in a difficult position as to determine whether or not it's sufficient. And I do appreciate the board giving me that trust. It's the difficult question I have to ask is what is the comfort level of the board, even if the applicant said, oh, I don't want to go back to the board, I'm going to remove the sign, I'll add more landscaping, just tell me what you want, Chris. That's what a lot of I hear over the last 15 years, just tell me what you want, Chris. But in this case, it's clearly going to be different because there's a retaining wall that was built, the gray wall, that the break block, that wasn't on the original plan. So clearly the plan, even if they wanted to put the original landscaping in, they won't be able to do it because the wall's there. And they're also missing a brick wall. That's another issue. So I just want to get a sense from the board before we sort of perhaps overreact and say you need to come back to the board because it's different. How would the board feel if they were to increase the amount of landscaping to my satisfaction?
My answer is similar to what Ms. Sealski didn't say, is that it is, the board did what it did, improved something, and they are not doing it. And they haven't done it, and I think they should come back and explain why they haven't done it.
Duly noted.
That's my opinion.
I did have one other question. You mentioned the brick wall. Is that supposed to be around the parking lot next to it or in front still, in the frontage of the building?
So if you look at the brick wall, the brick facade,
Sorry.
imagine the freestanding brick wall, about the same color with a concrete cap, maybe 3 feet tall, to continue abut the two ends of the sidewalk with the railings, because the intention was to really screen the parking lot from view.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big difference, that if that was part of the application, that wasn't built. I don't know if that was part of the...
That was part of the application and has not yet been built.
Okay.
Has not yet, or are they not going to build it?
Don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not the applicant.
Yeah, and then at that point, there's more than just shrubs missing from this plan.
That's fair to say.
I'm still, a big part of my thinking is that I'm not comfortable messing with the process, because if it can happen once, then it can happen again and again, and I'm not suggesting that that's a plan or something, but it's just, the process is there, and I think the process should be stuck with.
Agreed. I don't think we want to set a precedent for approving something then having people deviate from it.
Crystal get blamed.
Oh, yes. Imagine if I let this go. Would you trust me still?
A lot less, sir. I'll say it.
And I don't
You
think
really
I'm
are
going to put my
coming in hot
license on the line.
today.
Yeah.
We trust you, but we want to verify with the applicant.
Yes, there could very well be valid reasons why the plan changed, and I think perhaps what we're hearing is the board should hear that, and not just me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what? Thank you for trusting us
Oh, yes.
to have this discussion. So we appreciate you. So I guess,
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So, since my time on the board, this is the first time that Chris has ever had to do that. Is that something that comes up whenever an applicant completely deviates from a plan, or is this like an assessment on larger projects that sort of come back to the board?
I'm going to be a little curt. This is not normal.
No.
Wow. Okay.
I don't think you've ever done it, or if they haven't come back on their own when they've deviated enough.
There's been situations where the applicant has come back to the board. I recall this board had to hear an application for a Metuchen mower.
Yes.
And the issue was NJDOT didn't approve the design of the driveway
Correct. Yeah.
entrance. And the applicant had to come back for that reason.
But they proactively came back. It wasn't you making a presentation on their behalf to discuss the plan.
No, they came back with an amended site plan application.
Got it.
Okay. We just adjourn at this point?
I think so.
All right. I don't think there's any, I guess, is there anything anybody else wants to talk about, or do you want to go home?
Is
after
there
this?
any public comments?
Yeah.
Motion
We're
to
making
adjourn.
light for people who are in the audience, but there is nobody in the audience, so I'm going to close the public portion after offering that opportunity. Not hearing any, it's closed.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn and second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.